Couch Co-op has returned, and Big Helmet Heroes is the one I want to talk about today. This was a random purchase for me. I saw the trailer for it and thought it'd be a bit of fun. PlayStation Plus offered it at a discounted price as well. I think at the time there wasn't much for me to play, so it made for a good filler. It's random in a sense that compared to the usual games I play, the shooters, racing, RPGs, it was a breath of fresh air. It's not a game where you need to lean forward or lock in for. You can kind of just chill out really. It's a 3D beat 'em up adventure game that can be played with two people of course, or you can run it solo like I did. I wouldn't say playing on your own or with a friend makes it any harder though. The story of this adventure is told through hand-drawn cutscenes, and as heroes you're tasked with saving the princess who was initially kidnapped by a dragon, then you're sort of sent on a wild goose chase through 20 levels, each lasting anywhere between 10 to 25 minutes give or take. It depends how quick you are. Every few missions you'll get an update on the princess's status and where you're going to travel to next. There is no form of vocabulary in this, everyone in Big Helmet Heroes just mutters. You can tell what's going on. It kind of takes me back to the early 2000s for LEGO games where they don't say anything, but the cutscenes play out well enough for you to realize what they're trying to convey. I do miss that, so it's nice to see the silent comedy make a return in a sense. The gameplay mixes in alternating camera angles from a slideshow-like position to a top-down bird's eye view, I think as a way of seeing how the players react to said angles when fighting enemies and enjoying the multitude of environments each level has to offer. Accompanied with some medieval-like music, you'll find yourself traversing through forests, caves, deserts during the day or night, battleships, tombs, construction sites, vacation resorts even. I don't even know if I'm describing these accurately, but you get the idea. I liked them, and I think changing the camera angles every now and again was a good addition. As stated, there's 21 levels to get through, including the tutorial where you're shown the basics. Each character is split into one of 4 archetypes, the warrior, rogue, monk, and brute, and there's 29 you can unlock, so there's around 6 to 7 characters that belong in the same category. The differences between them are cosmetic, they'll have their own outfit and weapon of choice, so really and truly of the 29 heroes, groups of them operate in the same way. It's just their cosmetic look that makes them stand out from each other, along with their ultimate abilities, which I'll talk about in a sec. On PlayStation, you tap square for your standard combo, then hold triangle for a more powerful charged attack. You can mix these up a little to perform new combos as well. Warriors are your standard all-rounder that carries a sword and shield. Their speed and damage output is pretty much balanced. The rogue operates a little faster, typically dual-wielding daggers or small swords. They tend to do less damage but are very quick in dishing it out, so it builds up over time. Then we have monks, which tend to use a staff and are typically the best at dodging in my opinion. They perform acrobatic moves in the air to avoid getting hit. As for their damage though, I want to say it's around the same as the warriors, or maybe a little bit more. And lastly, the brutes. Their name is self-explanatory. They are usually a bit bulkier compared to the other heroes and carry hammers. Downside is that they're very slow at executing combos, but they definitely dish out a lot of damage. So in a way it's a good trade-off. Slow attack speed for higher damage, that's the principle for most games. Heavy weapons are slow but powerful. Light weapons are fast but weak. Having used them all, I have to say my favorite is the rogue, specifically Ray. I do prefer rapid attacks, and personally the gameplay is a lot more fun playing as them. You know, doing a bit of damage, dashing out of range, then rinse and repeat. When progressing through a level, there's more than just the weapons you're equipped with. You can pick up melee, ranged, and explosive weapons which are more lethal and do more damage but come at a cost of limited uses, i.e. the weapon will run out of ammo, is single use, or will break after smacking too many enemies with it. You can find them lying around each level or summon them by collecting these pink flowers I believe. Each time you collect one it spawns in a random and more powerful weapon for you to use during the mission. The enemies range from your standard cannon fodder, heavy brute enemies, and specials that can teleport, run incredibly fast to drop explosives at your feet, or enemies in vehicles that will try and run you over. It can get overwhelming quite quickly, which is why the power of co-op comes into play well here. If you've got a friend to play with, the level gets easier, but if not, solo is still manageable. You see, the 29 characters in this game can all be found within each level. Some contain more than others, but once you find them you can use them till the mission is over. I believe the maximum you can have in one mission is 4. It's perfect for solo players because if you're taking too much damage on one character, you can indeed switch to another, and as you do damage with that one, your weaker characters gain health back in return. So in a way you can cycle between characters if things are getting rough to keep everyone at a decent level of health. If you die, that's it, the character can no longer be revived or used anymore, so for harder difficulties you'll have to know when to switch out in due time, because the enemies are actually no joke with the damage they do. You'll find characters as you progress through a mission. Most of them you can't miss, they're not too out of your way to find with the exception of this level. I'm pretty sure I spent over an hour trying to find these 2 characters. It's literally a maze here, so I'd recommend following a guide for this mission specifically. I spent more time getting jumped here. However, you can also grab health based items like like apples throughout the level that can restore health not just for one but all your active characters, which is actually insanely helpful for harder difficulties. Some missions will allow you to get a bit more interactive as well. Depending on the mission, you occasionally get a first person view to man some ranged weapons like cannons and take on waves of enemies too. So it kind of gives off like a Rayman Raving Rabbids vibe, or those 2-player shooting games at the arcade. It's a good test to see if your aim is in check, despite not having to do it for like 80% of the game. As you do damage and collect these blue energy bottles, a blue bar under your health will begin to fill. Once full, you can activate your special ability. Each character has their own animation and it provides a devastating amount of damage or status effect to all enemies in the area. From things like summoning crocodiles or sheep to sweep the area, you can slow down time, turn yourself into a giant hero and stomp all the enemies in the vicinity. You can activate an energy beam of sorts that penetrates all enemies you are facing, so you can get collaterals with this if you want. You can spin yourself at high speeds like a Beyblade and damage anyone in range. There's a lot to choose from, but I wish they could demonstrate everyone's abilities during the character selection screen to remind you of what you're about to be using. I believe my favorite has to be Tsunami's ability. He's a brute, so I don't use him for regular damage as much, but when my ultimate ability is ready, I'll switch to him, then call in the Tsunami Wave, which will pretty much wipe out every enemy on screen and off screen if they are driving vehicles, for example. In my opinion, it's the most effective, which is a go-to for harder difficulties. The game itself isn't that long. I'd say it'd take you anywhere between 3 to 5 hours. However, as I went for the platinum, it took me 12. Not really a long game, but there is an achievement for completing every level on hard. In my opinion, it's good to run the game on normal or easy first so you know what to expect, and also learn where all the heroes are located or follow a guide. Because you take so much damage, having as many characters as possible is a big help. If you're confident enough to run it with 2, then by all means go ahead, but having some backup characters is great in case you get overrun. I will note you can cheese most of the level by running all the way to the end. You're not tied to a specific area all the way through. You can run and ignore most enemies. However, you may be stopped towards the end as the game forces you to clear out an area, but essentially you can avoid 70% of engagements this way. It's a lot quicker. Most levels will have a unique boss at the end, and the amount of enemies do increase as you approach the end of every level. So for me, there have been times where it felt impossible to do damage. I found myself dodging away most of the time and only being able to sneak in 1 or 2 hits, which longed out the whole level. It's a little tough getting that trophy, but not insanely hard. This ain't Elden Ring or Sekiro, so you should be fine. 1.2% of players have the platinum already, and in my opinion, any platinum trophy that already has more than 1% of players achieving it is not really difficult. I could be wrong. I think a lot of people would treat this game like a one and done, so you can expect most players not to see all the trophies all the way through, but for me, I like the gameplay enough to give it a second run and make sure I get all the trophies. The only dodgy one for me was having to kill your teammate, which required 2 players, so I kinda had to awkwardly use 2 controllers at the same time to get it. The trophy said to defeat player 2 and in brackets with a crossbow or throw. The throw wasn't working for me. I threw this teammate off the bridge so many times and it didn't pop, so I had to use the crossbow, and although this method worked, it did take a couple of tries as well. I wasn't sure what I was doing wrong, but either way I managed to get it after a few minutes, so yeah. That's all I wanted to touch on though. Despite me playing it by myself, I do recommend that if you are looking to get a new couch co-op game to play with someone, this is good fun. Can't go wrong with a bit of Big Helmet Heroes. Very simple game to get into. It's one of those games where you only have to use 20% of your controller, like 4 to 5 buttons to get through it. Light work. If you already played this game, I'd like to know your thoughts on this as well. I hope you guys enjoyed. It's been Dre, take care and see you next time.